So I ended up bead rolling this fill-in panel for the back of the tub there. So marked it out, and then yeah, chose what sort of shape I wanted to do. It's turned out not too bad. I had to go at another one beforehand, stuffed it up, so luckily I did that first. And then yeah, the good panel ended up getting it. Just took it a bit easier this time and seemed to work a lot better. A little bit wavy. I gotta build nothing perfect, of course. But once it's painted and probably got Raptor liner, I'm guessing I'll probably put on it. You won't really tell too much. And when the tailgate's up, you're definitely not gonna see it that often. I just needed to get some strength in here because I don't like just having a flat panel, because then it starts looking kind of like a speedway car. I like to have a bit of shape in your panel work and whatever I build. So I set up the bead roller fence finally. Had to alter it though because it was probably about that wide and wouldn't fit between the drive shafts here, so I tapered it, tried it again, cleared, but then when you wanted to come forwards, because some panels, like that panel there, it's really close to the edge, so you really need it to come forwards. And what it was doing was hitting these bearing blocks here. So what I did was cut that, so now you can bring it that far forwards or whatever. You can pretty much pull it out all the way out to the front of the door, which wouldn't work, but you get the idea. The only thing is you're definitely going to make sure it's straight, otherwise yeah, it brings you unstuck, because it'll want to try and drive you off course. So you're definitely going to pay attention to what you're doing. Had to sort of straighten the ends, but that's because you're tweaking around the corners here. It sort of tweaks the panel quite a bit, so you got to do a bit of hammer and whatnot. That's just metal for you, but should fit in pretty well. I'll try and hold it up there with one hand, so it's pretty much going to fit in there like that and fill in there. Just because yeah, there's a 150mm gap or whatever there is, 100mm gap. And that just ties all that in. I'll either trim the panel or I'll trim this panel here, just because they're overlapping at the moment. I'll trim the corners a bit more, because I'll actually weld it to this beam here. Need to fix this cross member as well, so I'll do that before that goes in. Once I get that done, I'll weld it to here, down here, try and get it all smoothed off, tidy it up. And then yeah, that ties that in, and pretty much the last major panel is the front wall here, which has been folded up. So mate Jono folded them up for me because he's got the equipment that's wide enough, so cheers to that mate. And yeah, by the time I actually gave him the right dimensions, we finally got there. So yeah, didn't say I was good at this shit. Anyway, so we got some folds in here. This is actually so that I've got clearance behind the tire rail, because the sides, they sit out further and there's an original body line. You can actually get the tie down by, well, the ratchet strap behind that. This one, you're very close. So that gives you a 10mm and just gives you just enough to get it round. Otherwise you'd go to feed it through and it'd just hit the front wall and you wouldn't be able to use it. So that's why that's in there. Also it gives it a bit of strength. When you put a fold in there, it actually strengthens the panel up. This fold here, this is actually to line up with down here. So what I'll do is I'll cut this, weld that to it, then it's going to come up, go sideways, up again, and then all the way to the top, right along the top. And that should pretty much tidy this front wall up. And I'll also weld it to this beam. And I'll have to get some new floor panel because the repo stuff's just shit. And then yeah, I'll weld the floor to the wall as well when I get the chance. And then yeah, once that's done, get rid of these beams here. The front of the tub should be nice and strong again, and the quarters shouldn't want to droop all the time. Ended up bead rolling fill-in panel, seam for the back, and then yeah, I've done this one the other night as well. Put this sort of recess in there and these bead roll lines just for strength. It's not 100% perfect. it was an absolute nightmare to do. It's probably easier if you ask for help, but I'm not exactly great at that. So I ended up doing it on my own, and I had a tub with the doors trying to hold it up when it came around, and cardboard boxes to hold it up, because once it feeds through it's just hanging, and yeah, you end up with a curved panel. So it was quite a bit of work, especially with the folds already in it, these ones here, but may do. But yeah, lines are a bit wobbly, but I suppose if it's got straight lines I don't mind. And yeah, probably highlighted the fact that it's time for a an electric bead roller, just one that you foot control, just so you got both hands on it, because trying to rotate the wheel as well as feed it through, and if you've got the pressure just slightly a little bit too much, you end up with these sort of kicks in it, and it's sort of every time you pull the wheel through and it stops. Usually with an electronic one, you sort of just get into it, and if you've got it straight, it just goes along and everything's nice and neat. If you go to step out, you just stop, backtrack a little bit, and do it again. It's not a big job. I also want a bead roller where if I do put a bead roller fence in, I don't have to dismantle it every time to put it in there or take it out. And also that bead roller fence isn't straight, which kind of, yeah, defeats the purpose of it. But anyway, so yeah, I'll probably look at saving up for that. But most of it's come out pretty well. This is probably the main part you're going to see. It's not too bad. I've tried to make the radiuses match the floor, and I've also sort of hammered the floor around to try and match this, just to make it easier. Cut and tapered these. I'll weld them once this is actually welded to the tub, just in case it decides to warp or do anything stupid. The tub should sort of hold it in its place. I'll also cut the front of the tub away, so I trimmed everything out, went down as wide as I can. Tried to keep these lines here, and that's what the big fold is in the bottom for. And then yeah, I'll come down here, go there, and just head straight across. And if I need to change it for the chassis or whatever, I can just notch it out, and that's no real big deal. So I thought I'd just show you quickly how I finish off these bead rolls. So these two here, just to try and get the end radius, because the problem you usually get is you do your bead roll and you finish it, but it looks unfinished because it's not rounded or anything. Also, it leaves the panel distorted. So when you finish the end off, it actually helps straighten the panel back out, and it finishes it off and gives that nice rounded look and helps get the panel back flat. So originally I saw this on YouTube as an old bloke, or older bloke, goes by Lazaro or something like that. Anyway, he's a really good sheet metal worker and can pretty much build anything. And his idea was, he saw that you could buy them, but a lot of the time, and in my instance, we can't get them in this country. You got to import them from the States or whatever. So his idea was actually get a hole punch set and actually notch the bottom out, so half of the bottom away. I'll show you with the bit that I made. I just made it really quickly, and it's probably not as nice, but until I get myself a hole punch set, it's got to do. So a piece of tube, it's pretty much width-wise pretty much spot on. I've probably gone a little bit too far. It should be really half, and I've sort of gone a little bit over half, but it's still worked alright. So all I've done is notched it like that, made sure the end wasn't sharp or anything. Last thing you want to do is go cutting into the steel. Rounded the edges off just so you don't get any small sort of highs or stars. All you do is, imagine this is flipped over, put him around the end there, give it a hit with the hammer, and just sort of hammer it around until it looks all uniform and nice. And pretty much that's how it's done. Small little trick to finish them off, because the last thing you want is an unfinished end and just looks shit. getting a bit further on this front wall of the tub. So I've got it tacked in at the moment, pretty much all set up, ready to go. I also cleaned up about where the height of this beam is, sprayed it with weld through primer, and I also cleaned up the front side of the beam as well. Just because there's two panels together, I know I'll seam seal it so nothing will get between there, but it's just a bit of added protection and a good habit to get into. Also, most people would probably drill the holes to plug weld the panel to the beam. I'll probably get a little bit impatient, but it doesn't really matter because I've got spot weld drill bits. So pretty much I'll just drill through, and pretty much as soon as it breaks through this panel, stop. Also doing that, when it breaks through, it will actually scratch the surface of the RHS, and it being a good size RHS, it's not going to hurt if you drill into it a little bit. And then that means I don't have to clean it out, because sometimes if you go too heavy with the weld through primer, the welder can have a hard time at low amps welding through it. Might have jumped ahead a little bit, but some idiot forgot to charge the GoPro batteries, so it ran out of battery. But got a bit further on this front wall now, so it's all tacked in. So a fair few tacks around there, all down the side. I also drilled the holes and did the plug welds, and yeah, they turned out pretty good. It's also pulled the wall in nice and flush with this front beam, which is exactly what I wanted, so I'm pretty happy with that. Floor height and everything's sort of looking pretty good. Floors need a little bit of hitting around just at the walls and whatnot, but got the doors dropped off now. They're getting blasted just where I've rebuilt them, and a little bit more around the window frames and whatnot. Saves me fucking sanding in there and shit and carrying on. A parcel come through, and good bloke Dale Jensen hooked me up with this notch. So cheers for that, man. I definitely owe you a shit ton of beers. And this will go on the Datsun and hopefully prevent any permanent spinal damage that I'm currently occurring at the moment. And yeah, should get me out of the way. So when I get time and space, that'll be going in, and hopefully make it not feel like death every time I want to just go up the street. If you haven't seen his truck, he's got the airtight courier. Things kick ass. Chaos Design's just done a video on it recently, and yeah, it looks shit up. Definitely done me a solid, so cheers for that, man. Hopefully I'll have it in one day soon. I don't know which day soon, but it's going to be a big job because the tub's going to have to come off, battery's going to have to be undone, fuel tank might have to come out, all that sort of shit. And then yeah, this will go in, and then yeah, I'll have to fiddle around with the tub. It's just a bit hard at the moment driving it every day, but if I can perform some magic, I will. I'll get back into this front wall here and get it hopefully welded all up. First day of this lockdown shit, getting a bit further with the tub wall to the point I've got it done. Pretty happy with how it's turned out. Got it as close as I can to flush. If I'm really worried, I'll just put the lightest skimmer filler over it, and that should have it pretty much level. Because I don't do perfect bare metal finish. It's not that good. But pretty happy with how it's turned out. Also hammered and dollied the welds to get them sort of a bit more flattened out. You wouldn't believe it. First day of the lockdown. Didn't run out of gas. Ran out of mid-wide. Yeah, that's a kick in the nuts. Also, old mate that was here about 5 minutes ago decided to stop right in front of this place. If you're gonna do that, be a dickhead, get on the brakes and then try and floor it to you know, prove your dominance as a man or a boy or whatever the fuck you are. Do it in something decent, please. Your VE, Alloy-Tech monstrosities, it sounds like shit. Definitely didn't get me excited, that's for sure. I think it's actually inverted after that. But yeah, if you keep coming back and doing it, I don't really give too much of a shit, but Pop might come out and throw something at you. So we're all wired up. Cheers for the brother to go and get that. Thanks to everyone else who's offered their rolls and whatnot. I was sort of more freaking about not being able to get it till Friday. I sort of was able to hold out through the weekend because we end up just going riding because you're still allowed to do that during this lockdown thing, however that works. Also, the brother come out today, gave me a hand, and yeah, we've got the big rig in the shed, pushed up in here. Chassis now wrapped up outside, looking like it's part of the scrap heap. I will get to it. You'll see a lot more of this thing in the future. Also, we'll probably start looking at pulling all this timber off, so we'll have firewood for Jesus. By the time I do the cab and everything, I'll probably be out of puff. Plus I've also got another F100 on the go, so I'll hopefully be sort of back full swing into that by the time it's sort of finished.